Welcome to CGTN. I'm Zhao Yunfei. The 11th Beijing Xiangshan Forum convened in mid-September. Delegates from over 100 countries and international organizations, as well as security experts and scholars from around the world, gathered in the Chinese capital to hold discussions under the theme of promoting peace for a shared future. The forum focuses on both global security and regional affairs. I hosted two high-level discussions, namely security in Asia-Pacific and security in Europe. The Asia-Pacific has shared long-term stability and development thanks to the security cooperation among countries in the region. I spoke with Major General Nie Song-lai, Research Fellow at the Institute of War Studies at PLA Academy of Military Sciences, and Ambassador I Gusti Ongo Wasaka Puja, Executive Director of ASEAN Institute for Peace and Reconciliation. What's your overall evaluation of the current security situation in the Asia-Pacific?
我个人认为应该全面、客观、辩证的来看这个形势。现在有两个倾向值得注意，一个就是一味的强调。
I personally think that this situation should be viewed comprehensively. There are two tendencies worth noting. One is to bluntly emphasize regional contradictions, problems, and conflicts, and view the situation too pessimistically. On the other hand, we should not think that the world is at peace and everything is fine. Therefore, we should look at it objectively. Generally speaking, on the one hand, the Asia-Pacific region has maintained the basic trend of peace, stability, and prosperity. This must be affirmed. In what aspects is this reflected? For example, we seek peace, promote development, and seek cooperation. This is the common aspiration of all sides. Many participants from Asia-Pacific countries are here in the audience today. I don't think any of you will oppose this view. Furthermore, the overall situation in the Asia-Pacific region has remained stable. We can now see that although there are conflicts and disputes in the Asia-Pacific region, at least we have no wars compared with other regions in the world. Therefore, we are a land for peaceful development. Third, the degree of cooperation, exchanges, and integration among Asia-Pacific countries is gradually deepening. This is the general situation that must be affirmed. Therefore, opportunities and challenges coexist in the Asia-Pacific, and there is both good and bad news. There are more good things than bad things. As we grow in the power of peace, we also grow in the power of the factors affecting security. But generally speaking, the growth of peace factors exceeds the growth of factors that affect security. This is a personal opinion. But we also have many contradictions and problems that we must be vigilant about, and we cannot avoid these. There are many unstable and uncertain factors in Asia-Pacific security. If we have the opportunity and time, we can continue to discuss this issue.
Ambassador Puja, I want to get your insights on the overall situation in Asia.
What I see, and I think General already mentions about look at the situations not as a half-half. I do agree that we look at the situation now in the Asia-Pacific. It's not about the half empty or half full glass of water. For us, it's actually how, not to debating those half empty or half full of the glass of the water, but how to find solutions, joint solutions together. Well, when I look at the current situation, of course, we are in the Asia, the Pacific is in the critical juncture. Of course, we look at the situations in this disruptive world now. Even we do not have predictions how our world will be in the future and how the future will be. Of course, the problems that we are having now in the Asia and the Pacific is a litmus test for regions, but also for the international community. So that's why, of course, we are focusing more on how to find solutions. Because in our situations now, we are not only facing problems in which countries has conflicts with other countries, but Also with regard to the what is called the non-traditional security issues. So you can find so many non-traditional security threats that we are facing now: climate change, um, technology, the artificial intelligence, migrations, um, terrorism, etc. So that's also we need to focus with in which those actually provides opportunity for member states in the Asia and the Pacific to work together to face these challenges, new challenges of the non-traditional security issues. The question is, with the current situation, whether we want to maintain the spirit of partnership in which we actually in the past, we enjoyed so much, we contributed actually to some extent peace in our regions, or we let the rivalry and conflicts and also competitions of major powers will be dragged on, and then this will deprive us from what we enjoyed in the past with regard to the peace, with regard to the peace.
Major General Nie, do you have anything to follow up? I want to learn more about China's stance in terms of the situation in the region, including the South China Sea.
南海问题啊，是亚太地区啊一个非常敏
The South China Sea issue is a very sensitive one in the Asia-Pacific region, and the South China Sea region is also a very sensitive area. Now it should be said that the South China Sea region has maintained overall stability, but there are also some situations that I think are worthy of attention. I give one example: the relationship between China and the Philippines. It is not easy to establish peaceful and friendly cooperation between two countries, but it can be destroyed overnight. Therefore, we have also discussed this issue with our friends in the Philippines. We have to think about what is in the best interest of both countries. Now, everyone has seen the situation in the South China Sea, including the relationship between China and the Philippines. We cannot avoid this issue. I raise this issue today not to provoke conflict or confrontation. Who is responsible for the current situation? I personally think that the responsibility lies entirely with the Philippines. On the issue of infringements and provocations in the South China Sea and on the Ren'aijiao, China and the Philippines originally reached an agreement on the issue of supply transportation, and the Philippines also made commitments. But now that it has violated this commitment, who should be responsible for this? Ren'aijiao is China's territory, and it is also an uninhabited island. The declaration on the conduct of parties in the South China Sea clearly states that the status quo and the stability must be maintained on the issue of uninhabited islands. Who do you think violated the declaration on the conduct of parties in the South China Sea? We can see this clearly. Therefore, China-Philippines relations are now at a very important crossroads. We need to learn from historical experience and lessons and properly handle relevant issues. China's views are very clear. First, if there are illegal acts, we will definitely respond resolutely. This is our sovereignty. Core sovereignty issues and interests must be safeguarded. Secondly, China has also said that we are willing to sit down and resolve differences through dialogue and consultation. The reporter mentioned the South China Sea issue just now. Our ambassador also talked about the role of ASEAN. I made a few comments in this regard.
Ambassador Puja, do you think that's a deficit of trust when it comes to, the South China Sea? Because both of you mentioned about we need to have a peaceful negotiation. We need to talk about cooperation rather than conflict. Do you think the action of unilaterally claiming Reef Island a way of, promoting peace?
When we look at the perspective of the ASEAN centrality, of course, this very issue on the South China Sea is a complex convergence between legal, political, economic, and strategic, even geopolitical and geoeconomics perspective. So some said that this is kind of a perfect storm of those perspectives. I mean, If we can look at the issue itself as a case which related to territorial disputes, of course, this involves a very highly political and also intense national emotions. So I believe it's whatever the development later on, if this involves the high intense national emotions, this will not contribute to the conducive for the compromise base for the agreement that might be achieved in the future.
I want to shift to another new topic because Ambassador Puja just mentioned about ASEAN centrality, a spirit of when it comes to disputes, all the relevant countries work together without the foreign interference. We have to talk about the foreign interference when it comes to Asia Pacific. Major General Nie, what do you think of the current presence of NATO as well as AUKUS in the Asia Pacific?
随着这个集团的这种建立，那么域外一些国家就逐渐
With the establishment of camps, countries outside the region have gradually intervened in Asia Pacific affairs. Now, many countries outside the region, some of which are thousands of miles away, also sent ships to the Asia Pacific region, saying that the Asia Pacific region is also closely related to their security. Such behavior will only have a destructive impact on the security of the Asia Pacific region. The purpose is not friendly cooperation, but in a sense, the implication of power politics. The purpose of building the camps is to impose their own will on the Asia Pacific region. This is currently the case. We cannot afford to underestimate the harm.
外性的这个影响。
We talk about several disputes. We also talk about prosperity and peaceful development in the Asia Pacific. When it comes to dialogue and negotiation as well as future peace negotiations, what kind of spirit should we uphold?
Whether we would like to have confirmations from all the member states in this respect to continue strengthening the spirit of partnership among the member states, or we will allow the rivalry, the competitions of major powers in our regions. In this respect, what I would like to underline actually, because at this juncture, we're still experiencing of lacking of trust. The trust deficit is still there, you like it or not. So in this respect, why this current of circumstances occur, whether you think what this situation will contribute to the peace and stability in the regions, or on the other side of the coin, or provoking another kind of competition. And in this respect, whether this effort is to increase the leverage vis-a-vis others. Of course, what we actually wish to, again, everybody should restrain themselves.
Shifting to Europe security. Here at the Beijing Xiangshan Forum, eminent guests talk about how to achieve a political settlement of the Ukraine crisis. I spoke with Cui Hongjian, a professor at the Academy of Regional and Global Governance at Beijing Foreign Studies University, and Oleksandr Chai, president of the Grand Toronto, Ukraine, and former first deputy foreign minister of Ukraine. What's the situation like in Ukraine at this moment? It's been 2 years since 2022.
Where we are now, on the front line, situation is difficult, but not critical. In diplomatic and political sphere, I think position of Ukraine are more understandable all over the world. So we are continue our struggle. After 3-4 weeks after beginning of this war, for me personally, but I'm sure now for all of us, was clear that in principle, Ukraine defend our sovereignty, our independence, and our freedom, and our political regime. Now we try to end this war on the conditions which permit us to establish just and sustainable peace.
You were the third member of Ukraine's negotiating team in Istanbul. You mentioned about the April back in 2022. We'll get back to it because that was the point when the two sides is close to a negotiation settlement. But before that, Professor Cui, in a larger scale, how has the situation in Ukraine influenced all situation in Europe?
The whole situation in Ukraine, no matter how could you name it, the war, conflict, or crisis, I think now, indeed, it's a tragedy. It's a tragedy. And not only for both Ukraine and Russia, and especially for European countries, for the continent. Also, now this conflict or crisis, this is a very, very big issue for the whole Europe is how could they, purchase a so-called peace, and how could take use of which kind of instrument, only military or some more political or diplomatic means, some other. Another, I think, very big concern for me, because I'm an observer or scholars on this situation, is not only the traditional security issue has been raised for most of the European countries, and now especially some economic security, energy security, and even social security. How could Europe play a role to help the situation? For example, for Europe, especially for some major players, including France, Germany, and even the UK, could they play a more positive role to help the situation, to find out or not to miss any opportunity to transfer this, bad direction? I mean, just taking use of a military means to maybe a new direction. I mean, the peaceful solution or political solution. So I think that it's a very, very big question now for European countries.
We'll come back to the political solution. But before that, the most recent update, which Ukrainian troop will be considered, it's one of the breakthroughs, it's the operation in Kursk region. Can you tell us more about that?
When we start our attack with our groups against Russia territory in Kursk, I think it's totally legitimate. And to my mind, one of the crucial aim of this offensive was to demonstrate the world that no red lines exist for Ukraine in our just struggle against Russia aggression against Ukraine. It's my first message. Second message, we successfully captured some part of Russia territory, and it considerably increased our position during the future possible negotiation on settlement Ukrainian war. And third, there are a lot of military here. They very clearly understand that from a military point of view, we create some new possibilities for us, new instruments, how to influence on the situation on the battlefield along the whole line of contact with Russian troops. And this is line now more than 100,000 kilometers. This is one of the biggest war in Europe after the Second World War.
Yeah, a lot of people, when I was in Ukraine, a lot of people also mentioned that that's the biggest scale of conflict after the Second World War. Professor Cui, we're talking about the two ways offensive between the two countries. Do you see that this is an elevation of the crisis?
Yes, indeed. As we know, we need to keep I think, a continued observation on their situation. In my mind, there always are two battlefields for this crisis. One is, of course, the military. And not only this situation now in the eastern Ukraine, especially the Donbass. And the other is, of course, now first, just as we discussed. Another, I think, the battlefield could be political, diplomatic, or some other, even the economic areas. Actually, now always this crisis is continuing, produce some more spillover effect. But I think that now the major question or problem is how could we find out the turning point to stop any escalation, not only in the battlefield of military and also in the diplomatic or even strategic competition, because always there is a background, of this crisis, the competition or even confrontation between NATO and Russia, even between United States and Russia.
Because at the beginning of the crisis, Russia was citing the NATO's eastward expansion. What's your comment on that?
When Russia started war, they also demand from us denazification, demilitarization, and a lot of other things than not only NATO. And if during the Istanbul negotiation, it was possible to negotiate a future security status of Ukraine as a permanent neutral state, but now I think it's totally impossible. And the crucial question for ending hot phase of the war for Ukraine and for Ukrainian citizens is this is security guarantees.
Professor Cui, do you want to make any comment? Are we close to any phase of settlement?
We should not forget that before this crisis happened in Ukraine, Russia tried to get a similar security guarantee from NATO, from the United States. So I think now the question is, yes, more and more countries feel lack of the security. They want to get some more safety by different means, military or some other. So I think now, yes, we need to try to find out the different category dimensions for this crisis or even its effect to the international security. I think the willing and also some political goals from Ukraine should be respected because as an independent country. But at the same time, I think these structural issues, especially how could we try to take some lessons in life to help, especially European people, European country, to find the real, principles, commitments, and valuable experience to establish a kind of, cooperative, comprehensive, sustainable security architecture.
I agree with a lot of ideas which you express. Our crucial partners in this is deterrence security policy. This is West countries, NATO countries. So we want to be together with them within NATO. But exists some kind of positive security guarantees which can prevent Russia from the future aggression. And from this point of view, a very special role of China. We in Ukraine see China as a crucial country, the only single country in the world which in future can influence on Russia in such positive way that prevent Russia from the future aggression against Ukraine. So now we welcome more and more involvement of China in finding solution how to end hostilities, first of all, and in perspective, the war in Europe. And your 12 major propositions, your common 6-point peace plan with Brazil is a very important steps from China and China security investments in finding decision how to end the war in Ukraine. And to my mind, the crucial in all initiatives of China, a very clear point that security integrity of Ukraine as a principle of modern international law, it's a crucial element in finding future solution.
Professor Cui, what kind of wisdom should we host at this moment?
Still, I think this situation is at a crossroad. One of them is, yes, escalation, especially military instrument. But at the same time, I think for China, for some other stakeholders or players, we need to try to make some more joint efforts to, provide some more favorable environment or atmosphere to help the situation. So it looks like a race between military solution and the diplomatic solution. I understand Charlie mentioned that, yes, we do have our own interests, but not only our own interests. I think China is trying to find out more connection, its own interests and the common interests for the regional countries and also for the international community. I believe that maybe one of the big lessons from this current Ukraine crisis is we have to find out that to focus on development itself, we can try to find out more solutions for security. And even once we have some more development, have some more, opportunity to share with each other, certainly it will, give us more hopes to achieve a kind of, sustainable security, not only in Europe and also in Asia and some other areas in the world.
Long-lasting peace relies on dialogue and cooperation. The Beijing Xiangshan Forum has provided an opportunity for participants to have discussions, express views, and resolve differences. I'm Zhao Yunfei. Thank you for watching.